I remember the Apple that used to reveal the one more thing after every single event each year. In 2006, this was the brand new MacBook Pro. In 2009, it was the iPod Nano with a camera and speaker. In 2010, it was FaceTime, Apple TV 2nd generation, and the MacBook Air. In 2014, it was the Apple Watch. In 2015, it was Apple Music. And in 2017, it was the iPhone X. But ever since then, Apple doesn't do the one more thing anymore. Do you know why? Because Apple is running out of ideas. With Steve Jobs running the company, Apple became a major success until 1985, where the execs and members of the board decided to kick him out. During his exile from his own company, Apple almost became bankrupt.
Well, Apple was about 90 days away from going bankrupt back then. It was much worse than I thought when I went back initially. I'd expected all the good people would have left. And I found these miraculous people, these great people, and I said, why? I tried to ask this as tactfully as I could, but why are you still here? and, you know, a lot of them had this little phrase. They said, because I bleed in 6 colors.
Yeah.
Which was the old 6-color Apple logo.
It was only until 1997, when Steve Jobs returned as CEO, did Apple return to its former glory. What this really proves is that Apple is nothing without Steve Jobs. The only reason why Apple is as big as it is today is purely because of Steve Jobs. I think we all knew this deep down inside, but when Steve Jobs died, Apple died with him too. And now we're starting to see what is happening to Apple without the leadership of the man who created the biggest technology company in the world.
This is a day I've been looking forward to for 2.5 years.
Just like Mozart and Beethoven ruled classical music for such a long time, Steve Jobs dominated the tech world. For the last decade, Apple has been relying on its previous success to remain relevant in today's tech world. And a good example of this is what happened at the MacBook M3 reveal this Halloween. I was so excited to watch the Halloween show. I got my popcorn out, turned my TV on, and I was ready to go. I was hoping for a new slew of reveals to get me excited to Apple once again. But what I really got to see was an utter disappointment. There was absolutely nothing new in that event except for the new M3 processors. But those aren't even that great. The M3 is only 15% faster than last year's M2 and 30% faster than the year before its M1. That's why throughout the entire event, Apple was singularly comparing the M3 to the M1 every single time.
Allows Pro apps to deliver up to 2.5 times faster rendering performance than the M1 family of chips. The performance cores are up to 30% faster than the M1 family. That is a breathtaking 60% faster than the M1 family.
The 14-inch MacBook Pro with M3 is up to 60% faster than the 13-inch MacBook Pro with M1.
Most customers are better off saving their money and buying last year's M2 MacBook Pros. There's nothing different about the actual design anyway, so may as well save a couple £100. For their next grand reveal, they simply slapped in the M3 processor into the 24-inch iMac. And that was it. That was the whole event. Simply for a new processor. It was over in 30 minutes, and I was so disappointed. And I think the whole internet was too. The most special thing about that entire event was the fact that they filmed the whole thing with the iPhone 15 Max Pro. That was actually kind of like, ooh, that was pretty cool. I sat back and I thought, wow. I didn't even realize that that was on an iPhone. And that was a 10-second surprise, and I was like, wow, I feel empty inside. 30 minutes and it's done. On Halloween. Wow. What a great time. That event was absolute trash. Apple didn't bother to change any of the hardware aspects, like making maybe a slightly different new design to the iMac or to the MacBook Pro. It was all last year's things, but now with the M3 processor. Wow. So mind-blowing. I remember the days when Steve Jobs would come onto the presentations live and he would list out all these new features with the new products. Bang, bang, it's a bit thinner now. It's a bit smaller. The GPU's faster. Here's the new feature. This is what you can do differently. The camera's a bit better. Now, hey guys, we're Apple, the biggest technology company in the world, and all we've done since last year to the iMac and the MacBook Pro is put a new processor in it. We have billions and billions of pounds in cash flow. I believe we're almost $1 trillion company. But all we can do, guys, for you little poor peasants that have become poor for buying our overpriced products, all we could think of in a whole year for our Mac line is a new processor. We have thousands of employees, not only in Cupertino, but we have loads of employees all across the world, guys. But all we could think of was a new processor. And now, we're going to mug you off, guys, because we're going to make the MacBook Pro 14-inch version cheaper. But really and truly, we're actually ripping you off, because that 14-inch MacBook Pro comes with 8 gigs of RAM. So you idiots now are going to buy a 14-inch MacBook Pro for £1,500. And you're only going to get 8 gigs of RAM. Guys, Windows laptops have been putting 8 gigs of RAM since the early 2010s. And you're going to spend all that money on a new MacBook, and all you're going to get is 8 gigs of RAM. Apple is now officially taking the mick. And guys, believe me, I'm an Apple fanboy. I've had the iPhone 5, 6, 7, 10s, 13, and now 15 Pro Max. I love Apple. But the problem is, Apple knows it has this legacy of being a great company. And they know they've got millions of adoring fans who are now trapped into their ecosystem, waiting and pleading and begging Apple to show them something new. I love Apple. I love everything Apple stands for. I've been hoping and praying for Apple to return to its former glory. The times when every time I would sit down to watch their press conference, I would be amazed by the technological innovation. But now it's just like, hey guys, we're Apple. We're recycling the old stuff as last year and charging you 10% more. Today, we're going to unveil some new processors and we're going to put those into all the old existing products. By the way, guys, the cameras on the iPhone 15 are actually slightly worse in aperture than the iPhone 14 and 13. Because we know you are loyal to us, and in marriage, it's to death does us part, we know that we can keep you. So now we're releasing the same thing over and over again, which is actually worse, but now at higher price points. Since Steve Jobs has now died, we have now run out of ideas, so all we're going to do is recycle all the old products which Steve Jobs actually invented. Guys, it's pathetic. I love you, Apple. I love you so much. I've spent more than a decade buying your products. But this isn't good enough. You're not giving me what I want anymore. Up until the iPhone XS Max, I bought a new iPhone every single 2 years. But for the first time ever, I kept my iPhone XS Max for 5 years straight. Because I didn't feel the need to upgrade. And now that I've got the iPhone 15 Pro Max, I'm going to keep it for another 15 more years. Because what are you going to do next year, Apple, for the iPhone 16? Make it an ultra version and make the screen a little bit bigger? It's just not good enough. This iMac behind me is from 2016. I loved it. It became the center of my universe. It's got 27 inches and it's got a 5K resolution. And I've been waiting and waiting for a 27-inch iMac, which is 5K with the M processors. But you guys have just not given it to me. You guys do not want to give me what I want. The 24-inch iMacs is for consumers. It's not a professional product. It doesn't come with the Ultra version. You can't get a lot of RAM in it. It's not good enough for me. I want the exact same thing that I've got behind me. You know what? It could even be the same form factor. But I just want M3 processors in it, please. But Apple's no longer fulfilling me. When the iPhone 1 came out, to the 3, to the 5, and I think maybe even till the 6, people used to camp outside the Apple stores just to wait and be one of the first people in the world to get the new iPhone. That's how much your fans loved you, Apple. They were willing to camp overnight, sometimes in the freezing cold, just to be part of something new. And that was because they saw something special in you, Apple. And that was the fact that you innovated non-stop. You kept bringing us new products. And the products that you already had, you made them better and better and better. But since then, and since Steve Jobs has died, you don't do it anymore. You don't bring anything new to the table. And we Apple fans, we're getting bored. And we don't want to move over to Samsung or any other phone manufacturers. But if you continue to not give us what we want, we'll have no choice but to leave you. And believe you me, we don't want to leave you. We want to stay. We love you, Apple. Like literally, we love Apple. There are a few brands out there which people genuinely love. But millions and millions of people love Apples. We love our iPhones. We love our MacBooks. We even love our Apple Watches. And I love my AirPods. But those products were first released years ago. And now we want something new. So guys, I really hope that the Apple Vision Pro does that for us and fulfills us in the way that we're looking for. But I don't think it's going to be a mass market product. The Apple Vision Pro will not be an iPhone, an iPod, a game-changing product. It will only be for professionals and for the upper class elite. I don't see a world where this is going to be in everyone's hands like the iPhone is today. I literally know whole families, from the kids who are like 7 years old to the grandparents who are 70 years old, that all have an iPhone. But I don't see that happening with the Vision Pro. Apple believes that this Apple Vision Pro is what's gonna save them, but I don't think so. I think Apple has started to run out of good ideas. And in a way, it's not really their fault. The only reason they become as big as today is because of Steve Jobs. And now Steve Jobs isn't here, Apple's become a defunct company, an incompetent company. And even Rome had its day. No company in the world is too big to fall. Many companies over the years that were equivalently as big as Apple is today have now fallen. They were once the titans of industries, but now many of our people in today don't even know half of these companies' names. Apple might be the biggest technological company in the world right now, but the question is, how long will it last? How long will Apple keep sucking us for all of our money through the same products that were invented decades ago? How long will it take until Apple realizes we won't be here forever? We won't keep following you forever. Apple, I don't want a divorce, but I'm this close to having one with you. And until you prove me otherwise, my feelings for you are becoming less and less. This is the Hezron Springer Show.